and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am.
Hello there everyone, and welcome to Equinox's video with me here today. I'm sorry it's coming a little late. Sorry I'm laughing, but it's a real weird spot where I am right now. It's kind of dangerous, okay? I'm actually hanging on this shelf, and this shelf is actually looking right down into a mountain valley with the river, and behind me there is this huge waterfall. I couldn't locate myself there today in terms of filming a video because there was too many people, too many tourists coming, and the water streaming forth is so loud. But I'm going to try to record it for you for the end of the video to feel a little supported and energized by the energy of that beautiful waterfall. So I hope this shelf does not decide to come down today when I'm recording this. You know, if it is, then this video doesn't come out anyway. So I'm going to show you a little bit around at the end, but let us start with today's topic. So I wanted to do a little short message for the equinox and this beautiful full moon in Aries, which people are calling the harvest moon or the harvesting time. Okay, also sometimes we can feel like a spring moon because the energy that we've started to initiate during the springtime now comes full circle. Okay, so what we have initiated during the new moon in Aries, now it's finally coming into cultivation. So it's always like this half-year periods of manifestation that are playing out in our lives, and it's really intense. And I really set under this Buddhic tree, I call it my Buddhic tree, and you know, I posted a picture on Instagram, and this was like my full moon manifestation, and I found this tree which had little seeds in it, and I was meditating with the seeds. I was putting my intention there, as you know, my connection with nature, and then I just released those seeds into the water. I'm not sure they went into the water because the wind was that intense, but either way, it's about surrendering that the seed, what you have planted, what you're holding with the intention of love, you can now let it go, because we're going to plant new seeds now. Okay, this is in a way a spring moon, which will initiate new beginnings in a way. So I wanted to talk about the message that I've been receiving during this equinox period. I know this video is not exactly on the time of the equinox because it was too intense for me to record at that time. I had so much healing going on personally. The thing is, as you know already, that every time we step into a new period of initiation, every time there's something new unfolding for us, it's like the old parts of us will simply, they will feel like they're being shaken up. Okay, so whatever is playing out in those circles, it will really want to come out at those times. So this equinox point this year was so strong, and I think it had some beautiful celestial elements as well. I think now Chiron is going back retrograde and it's going to move through Pisces again. And it will be a deepened time for healing, and we're stepping into the time of the Libra sun, which was initiated with the equinox. And we're really going to see how to live in unity consciousness. Okay, this was my theme as I was preparing it here in my hovering higher mind. So anyway, an old man with a long gray beard, just as you can see him entering here. And I had to stop the video for a while until he was passing. I think it just gave me this wisdom. He reminded me of a hermit, right? A lone traveler, a lone wolf. But in a way, it's like it felt during this time for many of us, perhaps for even years, decades maybe, it really felt like the hermit. Okay, the hermit in its stage of different initiations. And now I've received the message that this stage is surely coming to an end. Okay, not that, you know, we stop being hermits now, because it's always going to remain a part of who we truly are in terms of how we go through spirit initiations in life. But it's like that ancient, you know, still has this purpose of building a foundation to birth this new, what I call the illumined child. And this divine union that so many people have been talking about in terms of a man and a woman coming together. I've been talking about this as well, maybe from a higher perspective, as in sacred marriage and tantric union. But I've shared with you before that until you really birth this inner divine child, this illumined being within you that wants to break free, let loose, play, you won't even, you know, have the ability to come together in this sacred union, because these unions are now really wanting to set this platform or a template that these beings who come together in such a way through the union of their inner child, which I was shown through this gateway of the equinox, that this inner magical child is in a way a portal in itself. It's a birthing point for these unions. So for many of us, we've been setting or planting seeds for this, okay, during these cycles, setting the stage for this to occur. And when you get to a certain point, it feels like really old. Okay, you're playing the same old cycle. I've been talking about this before this man passed here. Just kind of a lonely track here, so I'm surprised someone came through, but it was a message in itself. You know, so much wisdom. And sometimes we, as a part of gathering all that and creating our life and living it a certain way, we're getting used to that. And during this equinox point, I was shown that we can get a little not like addicted in a way, okay, like we have these human attachments, but it's not just attachments to things or people, the way, you know, things play out in life, but specifically attachments to like the way of being, how we live, to the primary core level. It's like I had a few days and I went away. I went to this beautiful mountain valley for a few days. It was just 2 nights. I stayed in this beautiful, nostalgic retro house, family vacation house that I rented for 2 days, 2 nights. And I had this feeling of nostalgia. And when I was young, we had this weekend house, you know, old house that my father inherited from these people. His, you know, some family, some ancestors. And I got this feeling of nostalgia back, you know, and I remembered how I used to do things and what I loved as a kid. And then all this that played out now during the awakening years, and so much mastery, so much wisdom, like so much intensity. It's like I felt always like one initiation after the other. It's like, what does it ever end? And it didn't, okay? It just kept on moving. And the message was that we can even get attached to idea of, okay, always going through initiations, always going up the spiral, always going a certain way, okay, like up. And truly, our lives in this new, in an illumined way, they have to have magic inside. So sometimes when you go like up, even if it's like not in a linear way, we're going up the spiral, it can still feel kind of dense. It can still feel like, okay, but what's in it for us? Oh, or in a way, it can feel this, we can feel this sense of almost like this uneven pressure. And it's like this pressure keeps us moving, and this is what I felt. And it's like constant movement, and we can get attached to that as well. So for people on the path of spiritual growth and evolution, and I've talked to you before that awakening has nothing to do with ascension. Awakening is a platform which is the initiatory stage, initiatory level, which in itself, awakening and ascension are not the same. The awakening within the human sets a template, but then there's so much work, you know, in between what we would call, okay, awakening and the ascension point. They're not in a linear way, but I'm showing it like this, okay? So it's the ascended, illumined human being, you know, to actually have that, it requires a lot of work. But to have that shift in terms of making it magical, and to really allow and let loose this inner magical child, it's the illumined being within us that we have been building upon this template and wants to liberate itself and finally jump into its role to live this human life in this beingness. And then maybe what will in a way prevent us from that point forward, when it's like conditions are ripe, everything's there, but we're so used to the way we used to live and the hardship and initiations that we will require a sort of a push, and that push required will be the element that will get us from that feeling of it's always the same, our life is like this. You know, it wasn't like this, it was like this and upwards in the spiral movement. But when you will get to that part of your journey, to really allow this inner child loose, and I'm not talking about the wounded inner child that most of the people talk about in the New Age, it's this illumined being that you are creating as a template here on earth. And it is deeply connected with the sacred divine union, because when you birth this within yourself, it means you have finished your triad, the illumined triad, okay, principle, the feminine, masculine, and the inner child, the son and daughter of divinity, of the one and all. So when you will have that feeling, it will be like the wisdom of the age, of the sage. It wants to kind of break through the final barriers that perhaps were there with a reason, and these reasons are not always known to us. We want to analyze and rationalize every single thing. But at a certain point, it will feel like there needs to be a breakthrough, okay? And I remember so many times in my life I was pushing myself forward, but I'm not talking about that kind of push. The push I'm talking about now is the push to get you from this cyclical way that was required at a certain time and push you into this new way, a new era, a new way of being. And this is usually the hardest to imagine, because imagine, the most humans, most people now, what they want to manifest is something outside of them, a new way of life, new conditions on the outside, right? And everybody's chasing after the next best thing. And when I was in that house for like 2 days, 3 days and 2 nights, I was like, wow, how simple. I was looking at these things there, nature, how it envelops, how every morning is simple. The routines are different when you're not in your, you know, astral home base. It's like always spinning like this. It just takes you, ooh, something's cracking here. I hope it's just the sand under my butt. Hope it's not the whole shelf though. Sorry, I'm laughing, but I already had initiation today. You know, I was hugging a tree that looked right down into the valley, and I was releasing some fear this way, and I had to feel the support, and I was communing with the tree, and I was telling, I know you got me, but I still feel fear. I know you got me, but I still feel fear. And I feel still a little bit of pressure when I think about that, because of course these are extreme conditions sometimes we get ourselves in, but these extreme conditions will sometimes help us to release something, you know. And if this shelf keeps moving, then I know that maybe it's time to like slip and slide down. Okay, I'm gonna try to not move as much. I don't know how solid this is, you know. It's like, you never know. Eventually will crack one day, because everything in earth changes. Yeah, but this is what I'm talking about. It's the fear to live as a fully liberated being. And sometimes, you know, I had this initiation where I wanted to dance, but every time I would try to get myself to it, something was like, I was tired, or conditions weren't right, or something was always interrupting me, and then I just broke. Crazy, okay? And every time I wanted to dance and the conditions were right, something wasn't good again. Something wasn't aligned, and my body wasn't allowing me. I couldn't dance. You know, you can't force these things to happen. So I was really contemplating on this, and how in this magical child way, we have to, in a way, trust more than ever before, because it will be every time with the energy a new thing that we will require to create flow. I've talked about creating flow and channeling these higher cosmic energies in the previous video. You can watch that. It was a little more serious video in that note, but sometimes these things are required. And it's funny, because I recently had a session with a very young person, you know, these new kids, I call them. And the person was like, you're so funny. Why are you like this? You know, it's like more serious in the videos. And it's true, you know, people get this idea of you showing up like this, but it's just like 1% of even less of what you are and how you are. So this magical child that I felt so deeply in this house we went to and stayed there, it's like takes you on an adventure, sees everything as miraculous and magical. And for a while, when you're creating the conditions for your ascension, it will be part of life sometimes to take things more committedly, devotedly, seriously, especially me, because I was creating this platform for people to step into on their organic ascension timeline when they're ready and when they're going to be called, especially these new kids that are now awakening so fast. And because of that, I was sometimes like pushed to do things so intensely that I didn't always create time for balance just for me. Okay, so sometimes when this happens, you're so empty, you're like, you don't know what to do with yourself. And this is when this vacuum will actually be so helpful, because from this empty space, that magical child will speak again and will take you on an adventure. You're going to go and experience new things. So again, I wanted to say that this magical child is the point of the equinox. Some people might call it the birth of the solar something, like the solar, the sun, you know, the sun, the soul, the illumined soul within us, this illumined light that wants to fully break through all the barriers, all the masks, because we've all played them. You know how many times I was, because of what I do and being strong in that and being firm and having this wisdom to share, I was suppressing the voice of the little child. I wanted to be goofy and playful and spontaneous, and I was sharing that part of me more on Instagram. I didn't want to do it here on YouTube, because the videos are, of course, are more serious on that note. But it was a message, because I heard that it's important now to talk about how to live in unity consciousness. And all that came forth was that truly the unity consciousness is this triad within first. So for us to live in these communities that are light filled and where each and everyone knows their place in the community, in the whole, first that house, that home has to be within us. And for us to step into that means you have to fully embrace yourself, like truly, truly like this. And during this recent session I've had with the companion, so much came forth of how people can experience this. Okay, this has no value if you just make a picture or draw something or something creative, right? Oh, it has no meaning because it doesn't serve something. And so many times we have been silencing this voice and the desire of this creative way, which doesn't necessarily have to have a point of utilization. Like if I make a drawing, now this drawing has to be a piece of art I will sell in a gallery, or I will put on, I don't know, post about it, or I will put on a webpage to sell or something. Most of humans still have this, that the art or something only has value when, let's say, you receive money for it, or people would say, wow, it's a work of art, right? But the highest value of this intrinsic inner magical essence is when you can feel so elevated, so moved by this essence within you, that's this magical, childlike, playful beingness. And this is the illumined kid, okay? The illumined child living within us. And that's why for my birthday, I actually got myself these oil pastels, okay, in a notebook. And I said, these drawings will be just for me. They're not going to be a part of the oracle I'm going to create one day. I created these, cosmic drawings, so many of them, so many hours of work in them, and it was a lot of work. And sometimes that work, although as creative as it is, it can push you into a state of, it's like a never-ending cycle. There's always more. There's always more to do. There's always more to channel. There's always more people to communicate with. There's always more people to serve. And it can get a little frustrating for the magical child that wants to first be established and liberated within you, so that then you can formulate everything in your reality around it. Okay, and there's another message coming in with that as well. First was that hold value for everything you do, and it's creative. Doesn't necessarily have to have a point of utilization, like it has to be used for something, or it will be sold, or other people will say, oh, that's a work of art. It's like something that makes you so profoundly happy. And this is why I was taken back to a part of my childhood when we had this little weekend house, and it was really old, and I didn't like it. I didn't like parts of it, but my nature explorations and little escapades I did every day, I just always took myself on these walks, and my family always allowed me. They always trusted me completely. I had really beautiful parents. And I just went. I said, I'm going there, and I could get lost for hours in nature. And I was already exploring this part of me, okay, this nature guardian, and just really in communion with this elven essence and the Elohim consciousness of life-giving. And I didn't know, I was still a child. But now I was taken back to that time and doing things just for you, just for yourself, and not seeing that as a separate thing from higher purpose. So now everybody in this new age has been searching for this higher purpose. What's my higher purpose? And in truth, there is no such thing. Everything you do is already super high and super low at the same time. It's all of it. And to live in unity consciousness means that you're bringing forth all of these elements, all aspects of you, always to the forefront, so that they can communicate with each other, that each of them wants to play its part, and each of them is given the freedom to play that part. So in my own example, right, sometimes I just need to be this adventurous child that goes out in nature, and I find things and objects and pieces of nature things, and I enjoy photography so much. Okay, you can see that on my Instagram because I have so many photos, thousands of them. And it's just something I really love, and I see like just for me, something that's just for me. And recently someone wrote me a message. They said, well, you have to have a bigger audience. You have to build your audience, right? You just shared this on Facebook. And to be honest, Facebook is no longer a platform for me, for my audience. It's just, I randomly sometimes post something there that I already post on Instagram. But for me, it's like, it's no longer about building an audience. I believe that this path of spirit, this magic, is bringing everyone's attention to what I share when they're ready to be, in that space. And in this recent session, this person said to me, you have so many videos. How do you do that? You have so many videos. And it's true, I do. I was working 8 years non-stop, where I went somewhere in nature. I wasn't just doing it for me. I always was seeking the right places to record, and it's a lot of time and hours goes into that. And it's a beautiful process. You've created like this platform, but eventually you have to also start doing things that are just for you. And I'm getting used to that now. Okay, things that are, wow, just for me. How's that just for me? I have to share this. I have to super expand upon it. And that's why this message was so important. You know, you have to build your audience. You know, there's a bigger audience that can benefit from this message. And in truth, all the messages are freely shared in YouTube. There's hours of that there, hours of energy there, and pictures on my blog. It's just sometimes people want it in that platform and the way they think it will serve. And that's, again, a limiting concept, because we have to do what's authentic for us. So if for me, Facebook doesn't resonate, why would I fear like, oh, I'm not reaching a wide enough audience? Because again, we're not really tuning into what's truly necessary and trusting Spirit, that Spirit is using us as vessels in our own unique way. So maybe Spirit will use someone as a vessel for thousands and thousands of viewers, and another will be sharing their light in an intimate circle, in a family or somewhere. And that will, again, be more energetic than the person who's just motivating others through a bigger audience. And we are not the ones who would say what's better or what's more preferred and has greater value. So now the message coming through is, let us drop the veils and masks that constantly evaluate things as having this kind of value or that kind of value, but finding this deep richness of life and value in everything. So when I take these hikes, sometimes I feel like I'm not just taking myself on a hike, I'm taking others too, because then I'm sharing pictures. And sometimes that supports people energetically, the energy streaming for these pictures, because as you know, nothing is just physical. I've been using a lot of words, you know, in writings in my years and years of sharing, and I don't always feel that anymore, to always write something, to always have something to say. Sometimes I just want to feel, I just want to deeply feel what's coming through, or make a drawing out of it, or, you know, share that. And the inner child, that illumined child, knows. It knows so fantastically, because it is a complete birthing of Spirit. So this false concept that it's the one Son of God and there's only one couldn't be further from the truth, because what this son or daughter, I would say, the child, okay, the magical child of the divine is a birthing of that divine triangulation within, that sacred union. So the union I've been talking about, and so many people too in their own way, is truly a union when this birthing of the inner illumined child can take place. And this sets a stage for you coming together, like I said before, once with the one who has the same resonant field, who has also birthed that within themselves. So imagine two people like that coming together, completely free, loose, liberated, enjoying life. And as they're enjoying life, which means living in joy, they're rippling this joy and this divine love out in numerous ways. And their creative inner child, which is no longer the wounded child, is going to produce magic. And this magic has greater capacities of healing and that light than just a bigger, wider audience building, because sometimes words, as you know, words can only reach people to a certain extent, because they're still going to have to get off their asses and do their work. So I've been using a lot of words, and for a certain amount of time that served me as well, because I was releasing so much of that wisdom. And then I went more into my tantric essence, as you know, and I did these courses that actually go more with the energy work and life force mastery, which is much deeper. And I feel this is my calling in life, is to teach people how to truly liberate themselves through life force mastery and create everything in an illumined platform and template this way. That's why I built my last courses specifically around that, which is the mastery of illumined creation, cosmic orgasm, and all these things, okay? So when we start to do that, you will see your life will be for you, just for you. But when you do that, it's not just for you. So the inner illumined child is merged with everything. So during this recent session, the companion said to me, I have these moments when I just want to burst with joy and I want to merge with everyone, and I love this one and that one, and even if it's people from a different gender or the same gender, or things and objects. And this is what the illumined child does. It merges with everything. You know what I've done recently? It was really amazing, and I've never had that before as an experience. But I went to the mountains the first day when we went to that mountain valley, and I went for a mountain climbing experience, okay? I didn't want to. I just wanted to do a short hike. But then I came there, and the mountains started calling me. This is what I always feel. And there was this huge mountain pass, and I look at it, I said, I want to see the view on the other side. I need to go there. You know, this is my illumined child, how it is. It's like, it pulls me to things. It's like, wants to merge with that completely. Okay, I could stay on the other side and just look at that point, okay? Not physically needing to go there, but I needed to. I wanted to so badly. And then I listened to myself. And as I was going there, I saw a group of chamois, okay, these beautiful creatures. They were magical creatures, of course, connected a lot with the elven presence. So all of a sudden they pass, and I start whistling in them, and one stops, okay, and looks at me. I start whistling and whistling, and then Spirit tells me, no, I hear this voice, don't whistle. Do the squeaking sound. And I'm like, okay, you know. And then I produce this animal sound that I don't know. I cannot remember it now. I cannot reproduce it again because it was completely channeled in the moment. And I produced this sound like, I don't know. And the animal stood there, and these animals are very timid. They always move, like they run away as fast as they can. They're not like Capricorns that are more like, you know, solid and slow moving, and they're observing you. They're like, they'll do like, whoop, they whistle and they run, okay, they're super fast. And now that creature just stands, looks at me like non-moving. It was like stuck there, and it was totally mesmerized by me and by the sound coming through, because the creature must have thought like, that looks like a human, or if they don't, you know, reference it as a human, but it's not human. The sound is not human. What is this? Okay, he was just standing there for minutes looking at me without even, you know, moving an inch. And I was looking at the being, and I was laughing, and it was like looking at me, and I felt this unity. So as I was climbing the mountain, Spirit was sharing with me that unity consciousness is not what people are saying now. Oh, be in unity with the source and be that light and love everyone. And okay, yes, that is a part of it. But true unity consciousness, when you do that merging triad within yourself, that triangulation, when the illumined child within you is born, first, you're creating a template for it, then you're going to birth it. And the birthing point sometimes, as you know, can be painful. It was this process for me ever since my birthday this year, 35 years old now, this lady, has been so intense. It's like one thing after the other wanted to fall apart. And that's why I needed so much time for my own healing as well. Because I was assisting so many other people with their process. I was like, oh, I need this process too, right? We don't all go to healers and shamans and practitioners. A lot of us do everything on ourselves, but it means we have to create the conditions and the sacred space to do that healing. So Spirit was showing me that the true unity consciousness, not as a concept, but as a merging point, is when you do that triad. And you can merge with anything, be anything at that time, merge with that consciousness, okay? So when the chamois was passing, I wasn't like looking at it as like a human. I merged with it, and the animal and me, animal and I, were one. We were totally one for those few moments. And the energy was lasting. And this unity consciousness means that when you start to do that, and you're creating these instant merging points of reality, you're like converging everything. You can converge every element. You can be with every element. And this is what magic is. The magician is the one who knows how to shape shift and morph in each of these conditions. And the birthing point, so the portal for that to be the magician in the higher consciousness, is this illumined child template. So this relates to everything from the sacred union to everything actually I was talking about for years, the tantric union, because it's the life force mastery that creates this template within you. So it relates to that as well. Healing, okay, all of this is a part of that. I'm kind of chilly though. It's really cold, so sorry. I have to move this a bit. It got really cold all of a sudden here, okay? We were naked sunbathing last week there in that house, and then it got like super chilly cold. Okay, so the message coming through, as I've said, is that you will recognize this birthing point by, it's almost like everything will start to crumble around you, and at the same time you will feel this joy and elevation, or the things that before you said, oh, I'm no longer interested in that, because you got so serious about things in life, because you had to in a way, okay? You were building this template. But this point of origin, this birthing template, is maybe very challenging because we don't always know as humans how to break it. We've been building something for so long, then you don't want to break the house. You're like, that house is so comfortable. I was building it. Why would I break it now? But imagine, this process is so painful. It's like you built a house of bricks and now you're going to have to tear it down, because the house now has become an essence in a higher form, which is not physical. So you were physically creating it and spiritually, inwardly, which means it was a product of both. And now you're coming to the birthing point. You're going to have to, it's like you take a hammer and you build it apart, But it doesn't mean now it stops to exist. Now a higher form of that will be born, which means everything in your reality, your life, your influences in life, other people. And the last message here that wants to be shared is that we as humanity, we have been trying to create or manifest things as an external condition building. So you're trying to create conditions in your life, circumstances in your life that you would reference as change. And whatever kind of reading you would watch online, everybody's talking about changes. Changes in your life will happen. This sign will have love coming in their life. That sign will have these changes happen, love, career, goals. It's not about that. From a higher perspective of the ascension path and the physical ascension journey, is that it's all one. But that change, and this is what I teach in the Illumined Creation Mastery course, which is the synthesis 13-octave course, is how we truly create an illumined way by creating dimensionally and creating as a fully sovereign being, and this birthing of this illumined platform within us. So this means that we're not actually going around trying to change circumstances and navigate our way around things, because what we do a lot of times is we're kind of manipulating and controlling our way into how we want things to happen or how we believe we have to make them happen. But this was a false concept because we forgot how life truly is. And recently when I did a message on Instagram, a druid being came out of these oracle cards, angels and ancestors, these new cards, really beautiful, by the way. And the druid came out more than once. And I asked the being, okay, what are you letting us know? And there was a tree, and the wisdom was, the message was, stay grounded, stay put where you are, hold the space, okay? And then I thought, okay, the druids are connected with the trees. They have their wisdom. They were merged with the trees so fully that they were kind of sharing their wisdom, the tree wisdom. And the tree wisdom, as you know, in the picture, there was like this green plant, you know, that grows around the trees. It grows around it, and it grows in spirals, of course. And whenever we want to manifest what we call a new life, new way of being, relationships, whatever, it's like we always want to like go out and chase after it, or we kind of, even if the conditions don't feel right, or we get messages it's not time yet, but we want to make it happen so badly, so we're kind of doing that, kind of like jumping for the gun, so something to change. But in truth, it's almost like we're trying to cheat our way out of something, out of a certain way of living, because we say this is not for us. So it's like we don't trust life, that we are where we need to be. So the message of the druid was, you are right where you need to be, even though when sometimes you don't think that to be true. And the tree has life in itself. The tree is a symbol of the pillar. It's the pillar consciousness. So life comes to the tree, right? Animals come to the trees to rest there, to play there. Trees attract these plants that grow around them in spiraling movement. So life comes to the tree. So we have to start letting and allowing life to come to us and through us, instead of really always going for the next best thing and trying to create something like more of this, more of that, more money, more clothes, more of this. Okay, so the more you purchase, the more you have to create resources for that purchase to be covered. Okay, so the simple life, to find those simple elements, like, you know, when I went into that house, the first thing I knew, the house was magical. It's not like the physical structure of the house, but the energy of it. And I never had that before. If I went somewhere else, I always like dreaded a part of it. Like the energy was off. This was the first foreign house from someone else, you know, that I actually loved. And what greeted us when we came there first was a white feather right at the doorway. I was like, wow, how's this possible? Where does it come from? It was right when we were entering, like the person was, you know, showing us around. And then we went back home, the other feather was by my car. And the whole time I knew that there were so many angelic messages there, and messages of beings that are there as assistants. And they had this like huge, mini but huge library of Italian books. And I did like this random pick. Oh, this one attracted me. And it was exactly a book about the inner child. I've shared that on Instagram as well. I was like, listen to your heart. And we took another one. It was the spring moon. It was like a Luna Primavera, something like that. It's like a spring moon and manifestation and harvesting moon. It was so beautiful. Like the whole house had messages and they all spoke to me. And this is how I lived as a child. This is how I always was. I see spirit in everything. This is my main gift in life. People always think that our soul gifts have to be in a certain way. like you have this knowledge, okay, you know how to pass that along, okay, yeah, you're very communicative, yes, these are all gifts. But the way to be artistic through the inner illumined child, first and foremost, is that everything in life becomes spirit to you, and life is a reflection of spirit. And this is the highest gift of life. So recently another message coming through was, it's not, our gifts are not so much how much we serve and assist and all of that. The first and the highest gift you can offer to life is the way you live your life. And when you can live your life through that magic, this spontaneity, this inner child bliss, this illumined child, doesn't mean you're being childish, you're being childlike, but in an illumined way. And this is what most people don't get. And everyone will get it when they come to that crossing point. So I had to stop the video again. There was a man there. Second visitor. Who's going to be our third? Okay. They're all men, right? Where's the women? Interesting. Maybe they each get younger. Maybe first was an old man, now it's a younger man. Maybe the third one will be a child. I don't think so. Let the child come here alone. It's kind of dangerous. But anyway, yeah, to finish up and wrap up this message is that everyone will know when it's time, how this feels like, how they want to live. And the whole life that you've built will now revolve around this, okay? And that's why when I was, considering the changes in my life that I desire to happen, the things I feel would be more aligned with the way I am within, not the way I lived so far, it's like they will naturally have to align with that, like the plants growing around the tree, okay? So imagine yourself being as a pillar. You're a pillar of light. And instead of always going up for the next best thing and trying to change your life, know that change is ultimately not something you make happen or even can make happen. Because I was contemplating a lot about this. Can I even do something? Can I even, do I even have the power to control something, to change something? People say you're a master. Yes, you can. Yeah, but the master has to, the true master, the illumined master, has to know the way of the light and the dark. And the dark sometimes has a law of, you're trying to use your knowledge of creation by kind of like finding these crevices, okay, through which you want to control something or manipulate your reality the way you want it in a certain way. But to truly be a liberated illumined master means like you have to allow this magic. You have to allow life to show you a higher road, a higher calling. And this does relate to that. So to answer that question, to live in unity consciousness is to live in full union with yourself first, and then with the other, okay? When you're getting closer to another, there will be challenges. I had in my own, relationship, of course, especially the mother-daughter theme was like intense, because I've realized one day that my inner being, okay, this perhaps a little bit of that wounded child thought, my mother knows me, okay? She's been with me all life. She knows me, okay? But in truth, when I really went deep, was that truth? Is that statement even true? It was like, she doesn't. She's a different being. She's from a different soul, whatever, group. We love each other very much. But she can never ultimately know me. And it's not her job to know me. She can have a tendency to love me in a certain way, to offer her love to me, to offer the way she feels she serves me, as I also serve her in a way. It's a beautiful devotion without needing to do it. It has to openly happen without being attached to whatever it is, and to feel a relationship being a certain way. And again, this started to crack, started to dissolve in a certain way, which meant, okay, we're building a new, okay, this new way wants to come through, and whatever you grow, things will start to fall apart at the same time. And it won't always make sense, but that's a real proof that you are growing. Your inner dynamic has changed, and now the outer world wants to align with that. So it was a lot about that, knowing that there's aspects of me that I feel she will never understand. The energies, I have these intense inner fires that even I sometimes don't know how to control. I'm still mastering that as of now, at this point in time. I felt like she will never understand that, perhaps, and it's not her job. But I have to learn how to communicate. That means I have to know my process well enough that I can communicate it to the other. So you see your inner union and knowing of that, what you need, what you want, instead of feeling the others will always know you just because they always have been with you or they're a spouse or partner. That's really not what union is. So also to be in that union requires a lot of silence. We have recently talked a lot about maybe having moments when we just do, like, let's say a silent drive when we're driving, but we're really silent, not so much chit chat. because we as humans say so many things that are maybe not always required for us to say, because it uses a lot of energy. So during this process itself will require a lot of energy, will require a lot of energy input, which means you're going to have to withdraw your energy from other things that take your time, your space. And with people you love, you don't always have to leave them, but you're leaving the way you were with them at a certain point, which means you're building your inner template, which means the template of relationships is also changing, and it will change. So it will spank you around a little bit if you're not listening or paying attention. But we have the answers without needing to always know in a controlled way, because we were talking a lot about that, why sometimes it's so hard to break free from these patterns. And then Spirit one day just told me, it said, why are humans always talking about these patterns as if it's something to break free from, and then you're always free when you come to the other side? They said, whenever you are creating a certain template, okay, you live at a certain awareness, there's always patterns held within it. That's patterns that hold your reality together. The only way when these patterns are negative or destructive on your path is when you've outgrown them, but you're still using them and they're keeping you in this stuck mode. But there's always patterns. You come to a new level, you liberate yourself, you've created a new template, and that awareness, this is how you function, this is how life reality is viewed and created through you. But then again, you grow more, a light quotient is built that takes you to the next level. And then again, you see, a breaking point happens there as well, which means at every level, these patterns will be released. So patterns always exist. They're just more subtler as you ascend more and more into your true ascended being. They will get subtler and subtler. And for you to say, I'm only healed or whatever whole when I break through the patterns and then I can be ascended, it's like a false concept, and it's a construct of a false reality. That's not really a grounded way of seeing the human nature and embracing the human aspect and the human equation. So relationships are a good or great teaching tool to show you where you are in consciousness, what needs to break free, because sometimes we're alone, we don't always see that. So I recommend you to do these silent moments, bring more silence into your life, not always needing to explain and rationalize everything. We used to do a lot of that because sometimes we were so different, and I felt like I always need to defend myself or explain what I mean or whatever. And it was using so much of my energy. I felt, why am I always explaining things? Like, why am I always explaining myself even? It really used a lot of energy, and it got just draining at a certain point. So silence will get you through the other side or onto the other side by seeing, ooh, look how good it feels. Look, why was I saying all these things? Why am I talking so much all the time about things that are not really important? I'm not talking about the kind of talking which is spontaneous and magical. You see things, you don't want to share them. It's like, you know, you're always, let's say you're driving and you're like saying, oh, look at these people, why they have this in their house, or why are they doing this in the village, or it was like so much ramble about the things you can't really change, that are not in your power to change, but we're doing that all the time. So again, to live in unity consciousness in a higher way is merge with the reality, what wants to merge with you, what you want to merge with in this illumined child kind of pull, right? Becoming more magnetic, being like a tree, letting life come to us, and then creating more silence to see what's actually needed for us, to be so present with the energies that you will know, as your essence will tell you. To be in the flow right now, you have to go for a run, or now you want to climb a mountain, or now be more in a meditative space, have more silence. Sometimes for me, flow is not to meditate and sit still. If I'm going to be very, you know, it happened to me a few days ago. I sat there in the middle of a mountain, a gorge, and I did a little prayer invocation. I was releasing some things. I felt still stuck. I said, it doesn't suit me. All of a sudden I have this push. It's like, see, this push tells you, you need this. And I see people climbing the ferrata route, right? Which is the wires, the iron wires. I didn't have my gear, I didn't have my helmet, the belt, nothing. But the push said, go. And I went. And it was all water, so much water after raining. It was like quite a little dangerous, but I knew I can do it because I went, you know, ferrata climbing many times. I just needed like a little more bravery and courage. But that actually got me through the threshold. It got me through that stagnant kind of, you know, because whenever we release something from our cellular memory, from the way we were at that time, when it comes through the body, it can keep the body stuck, which is moving through. It's like the consciousness, oh, this is how it is. And you can get so stuck in these murky waters, you can't push ahead or forward. And this is when that push is needed to charge the energy forward. And sometimes it can be something like, whoa, I went through this climb. Okay, what just happened? And that's how it is. So anyway, guys, these are today's messages. I hope some of them resonate with you, filled your heart with more love and acceptance of the self and your beautiful magic within. I have to go now because it's super chilly and my jacket is right there next to the recording device. And I actually have been listening to myself, and I felt these 2 days are not enough. So I actually created a holiday for myself. I go every year, take just 1 week just for me in the mountains. I felt this was the right time now. Last year I went in October, if you remember. I went to Karnak Alps. I fell in love with them, so I'm going there again. I just love them. It's so gorgeous there. So I'm going for a week, and when I get back, I will do my monthly content. So maybe next month, the Ascension update and other content comes a little later. But don't worry, it's coming as always, as well as the Patreon support. I want to invite you to consider being my Patreon, being a part of the support team, because I created this goal. If I get 44 supporters of Patrons, I will start doing Ascension channel messages there for the group. You know, it needs to be like a piling together of the group, so I'm not doing it just for a few people. So check that out and go look at the courses to support my work, especially the latest one with the illumined creation and Elohim consciousness embodiment, the orgasmic course. Of course, the galactic human dance, all of that is related and together. And the main course will always be the Tantrical Life Force Mastery, which is the pivot point for those add-ons that build upon each other. Also check out my personal services, which will be back when I'm back from my retreat. So take a look at that. And yeah, I wish you so much beauty. Have a beautiful time. The fall has really just suddenly happened here. You know, it was quite a long summer. It was a little prolonged. It started maybe a little late, but then it just happened to last all the way up until the equinox, and then it was just like poof, borderline cold. Bleh, okay, oh, chilly, I gotta go. So I'm going to go back to my hike. Hope to record the waterfall there for you, and I'll see you in a bit, in a jiffy, very soon. And always, so much love, wisdom, and power. I'll see you soon, guys. And here's just a quick exercise. What we can do when, you know, the more we're stepping into this illumined child of ours, it's like sometimes things will pop up, they will show up, and they will be like seeming restrictions or kind of like borderlines that we seemingly can't cross, or voices that tell us otherwise. So it's very important that we learn to allow these voices to come up, to present themselves, instead of negating them and saying this is wrong, you know, you're the wrong voice, or you're just the mind, you know, just let me go. It's like it continues the cycle, okay, because we're not acknowledging that aspect. So at that moment, it's the most important thing we can do when we say thank you for showing, or thank you for revealing yourself to me. I love you. I love you. I love you. And just feeling the love for that part, feeling what wants to be expressed, feeling what wants to flow. Because for many individuals on this earth journey, they have been building their personality, their earthly personality, their seeming persona for so long that it's almost like for many beings, they don't know how they truly feel at that core level of that illumined child. So once it will start to be kind of like presented, you know, bit by bit, we might get these notions that it's just fantasy, or it's just not real, or, you know, like I've shared before, that these aspects, they're non-productive, they're meaningless, they're not a part of this higher purpose. So it's very important that we acknowledge every single voice, and we will always know when it's the voice of limitation, when there's a feeling of contraction there along with it. And there's always the voice that's the voice of the magical inner illumined child that makes us feel enthusiasm, makes us feel excitement, makes us feel that, you know, that rush, even if it's something small as going for a walk at a new road, you know, a new pathway that you haven't visited before. So that's why I like to go to parts of the Alps or hikes I haven't been before, even if it's just a different path. I never like to climb two paths the same, you know, many times. Sometimes it happens, yes, if it's something that's a part of my routine. But to keep the magic alive of that non-repetitive, cyclical, you know, energy, it's like you have to step outside of these boundaries and acknowledge every single voice, but then feel whether it's something that wants to limit you and it wants to keep you at the same old, you know, whether there's something that really feels liberating and exciting. But honor each voice and always say, thank you for revealing yourself to me. I love you. Enjoy.